welcome to the Joe Cortez Show here in Las Vegas, Nevada, the entertainment and the sports capital of the world. Again, with my co-host, Shelly Stevens, and we have a special guest today, a gentleman who's been here a couple of years now, about a good 6-7 years, originally from Florida, and name is Jay Vickers. Jay Vickers is the CEO, Chief Operating Officer of Sports and Entertainment Innovation of UNLV.
That's correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background, buddy?
Oh, yeah,
I'd say just a little brief, a little of who you are, but you got to tell us, how do you get there? What made you get involved in this kind of a business that you're involved with?
Well, first and foremost, sports has been part of my life since I was 9 years old. Growing up in Tallahassee, Florida, always loved sports. First fell in love with football. Then, of course, basketball, track, and et cetera. Was very fortunate enough to take those talents and my love for it and passion to earn a scholarship at the University of Notre Dame, place I'm very thankful for and proud of. And as a first-generation college student, actually made my family and friends proud as well. So to be able to take that and now then work in the private sector. So I had the opportunity to work for 3 Fortune 500 companies, Gallo, Hershey, and Pfizer, respectively. They moved me around the country, which is great. But I wasn't exposed to the West Coast during that time. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to really understand more about the rest of the country, but I also wanted to do it through something I was passionate about.
So you're here to make a difference in Las Vegas, right?
Absolutely. So I wanted to get in sports. I wanted to use the talents I learned through the private sector and be that voice for other student athletes in the future. So I worked in college athletics, some really great schools, Arizona, University of Wisconsin, Northern Illinois, Fresno State, and UNLV. But here, Las Vegas, where I found my home. So first stepped foot in Las Vegas about 15 years ago and fell in love with the city instantly. The people, the community. As we like to always tell people, Vegas is much bigger than the Strip. So
absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. And I love the fact here in Vegas that sports and entertainment go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
You know, it seems like I've always been involved with something, well, entertainment, of course, but then sports as well. My husband and I used to be the musical entertainment for the Eagles back in the day. I think it was Buddy Bryant who was the coach here. We met him at a private party, and so he started hiring us for every private party they had. So, you know, I got into football that way, and then my husband was always a big boxing fan. So, you know, he tried to get me to watch the boxing matches, but I would be like this because I hate to see people get beat up and stuff. And I was into it. I wasn't really into it. I didn't know anybody's name except Muhammad Ali. I used to be a flight attendant. I met him on a plane, and, you know, people with the big names I knew. Anyway, when we moved to Vegas, we've been here now, what, long time? 2000, yeah, about 20-some years. So anyway, I met Joe at a restaurant one night. We were performing at him. When he walked in, my husband just looked like he was having a heart attack because he is like loved and admired this man for so long. And when he came walking in the door, my husband just like, and I'm thinking, you know, something's wrong with him. But anyway, we did a song. My husband was with a group called the Stylistics back in the 70s, and they had a big hit called "You Make Me Feel Brand New." So while we were off that night, we weren't really performing that night at the restaurant, and the owner always asked us to come sing a song, even though we are not performing. Technically, we're just having dinner. So while my husband's queuing up the band and everything, and Joe was sitting like right there in front of me, so I told him I was dedicating this song to him because he made my husband feel brand new. And ever since then, it's like we've been like really close, like family, you know. And just to see sports and entertainment combined, it's like been a big thrill for me. So we're happy to have you today as a guest.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Jay, another question, Jay. Now you're with UNLV now, and you're involved with the sports and entertainment there. Can you tell us a little bit about your innovation?
Absolutely. And so what I have the opportunity to oversee is our Sports Innovation Institute. And I have that opportunity thanks to our team, first and foremost. So we have a director of sports science, that's Dr. John Mercer, as well as the director of sports management, Dr. Nancy Lowe. We have an outstanding program manager who happens to be, her name is Margot Malik. And then we have another director oversees our brain health and data analytics, and that is Brooke Conway-Clevin. So it first starts with having a great team, no matter what you do. And so everything that I do is really, what we do as a team is really create a hub for all of our faculty and students that's involved in any sports-related research and innovation. If I was to take a survey and say, what do you think sports research innovation is? I get 2 different answers between us, and I would tell you they're all right.
Okay. You talked about brain health. Can you tell a little bit about brain health?
As a matter of fact, Brooke Conway-Clevin works with the Lou Ruvo Center and they work on brain health as it relates to even they're doing a study now for boxers.
Right.
And so they're working on the effects of boxing, how can they prolong their careers, what would happen if this scenario or that scenario happens, looking at biomarkers as well.
Yeah.
So the brain health piece is just another pillar of excellence that we have. We have a total of 14 pillars of excellence. And what that means is these are areas of expertise that we have subject matter experts on our campus that we can call on to say, look, tell us more about sports technology. Tell us about sports law. Tell us about, let's have someone talk about sports health, sports performance, or just across the board, esports, again, brain health, mental health, and et cetera. Our hope now is to add a 15th pillar of excellence that would be focused on sports and entertainment diplomacy for the state of Nevada.
You know, I've always been involved with, with boxing, as you well know. My whole career since I was 15 years old, I started boxing. But boxing is, you don't play boxing. You're in the hurt business.
Yes.
It's just like MMA.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of interest, a lot of concern, let's put it this way, a lot of concern about combat sports. Now, football, a lot of individuals, and I got a grandson, Bryce Hampton, who starts playing next week with the Toronto Argonauts.
Yes.
Yeah, he graduated from Purdue University.
Okay.
Bryce Hampton. And
We played them a few times.
yeah, you met him. That's my grandson. And anyway, we're a little concerned about combat sports and the brain studies that you guys are doing with Lou Rubel, the Cleveland Clinic. What's going on? I know they have individuals from combat sport like MMA, and you got boxing, and you got football individuals for a study that they're doing there. How's that program going along right now? Because I was doing a little work with Charlie Burnick, who was there. He's still there.
Yeah.
But he had me on the advisory board, because I used to bring Leon Spinks here, and we're doing a little study with Leon Spinks before he passed. But what's
Brooke
going on?
works with Dr. Burnick, so.
Yeah, you know Charlie Burnick.
I do, yeah. He's an outstanding doctor.
Yeah, one day, I was doing something with Leon Spinks. He would come into my house. I had a boxing ring in my gym at the house, and I would do the mitts with Leon Spinks. I was always throwing combinations. I throwing jab, right hand, left hook, and I'd be moving with him. He was doing that. And then after a while, Charlie Burnick called his wife, Brenda, said, Brenda, what is Leon doing? He's changing something's happening. He's changing so much. What is he doing? She said, well, he goes with Joe Cortez to the gym. He's working out with Joe, all these combinations. He's always doing combinations. He listens to Joe, everything. And then Charlie Burnick says, Joe, called me up one day and said, Joe, I want to know, what is it you do with Leon Spinks? I mean, he's improving so much. His balance is better. His patience is better. He's speaking a little bit better. He looks like he's concentrating better. What are you doing with him? I said, Dr. Burnick, come on over to my house. I will show you what I do with him. Yeah. He came over to my house. I put Charlie Burnick in my ring. I put the gloves on him, and I made the mitts, and I said, okay, hit me 2 jabs, right hand, left hook. And he was confused. I said, no, 2 jabs, right hand and left hook, with the mitts. And he couldn't get it. And then after a while, he got it after jab, right hand, left hook. After a while, he got it. He said, Joe, this is what you do with Leon Spinks? I said, yeah, but Leon Spinks, that's what he did all his life. He said, Joe, you may be onto something, because what you're doing with him, can you come to our clinic? And I want you to be my staff and talk to my staff. We went to his clinic, and we were talking. He had about 15 individuals, a big, long conference room.
Yeah.
He said, Joe, he introduced me to everybody. He said, Joe, can you tell us a little bit about boxing? I told him about my background as a fighter and as a referee. And he said, Gee, that's amazing. I said, now you guys are doing the study with fighters. I asked the staff that here, how do you guys get to count how many rounds a fighter fought? He said, well, we look at the box rec. We see he fought 10 rounds there. He fought 8 rounds there. He fought 6 rounds there, 10 here, 12 there. We could figure how many rounds. We figure so many punches per round. I said, now you guys, you're doing that study for a while. Have you guys ever taken into consideration how many punches the fighter has taken preparing for that 10-round fight? Maybe 100 rounds?
Oh, yeah.
50 rounds? How many punches in a round? They said, wow, we never thought about that. I said, you got to take that into consideration. You're taking punches while you're training for each fight, but not just the fight itself. And you go to a train to see a fighter spar, they're taking hitting blows with each other like if it was a real fight. Even though they got the bigger gloves and the headgear, it still does some damage to you.
Yeah, it's still very impactful. No different than playing football.
Right.
That's why a lot of times now you're seeing football practices changing where they're not taking them down to the ground. Right. They're not doing a lot of live hitting. If it is, it's very controlled.
Right.
They want want to save their bodies for the actual game, but that does take a toll on you. So the practices, I mean, growing up, before we started talking about brain health and mental health and things of that nature, we had some pretty crucial practices from high school on. So, and it was fun then, but we didn't know any better. So now that we know better, we should make sure we have the right precautionary actions in place.
Okay, now as far as entertainment is concerned at your UNLV, your program, what do you do with entertainment?
Well, to me, it's interesting that we say entertainment, right? But entertainment across the board sports is entertainment.
I know it is.
In itself. But we also work with, all the different schools and colleges within our program. So whether it's fine arts, whether it's other places, we look at the entertainment side. Like Cirque du Soleil, in my opinion, is some of the best athletes you could ever find, because I can do none of the things that those folks are doing. So we work with them. So Dr. Mercer, who is our director of sports science, have done training with Cirque du Soleil and their athletes, as well as others across the board. So it really just depends. We try to fulfill the whole gamut, and we create a bridge to all of our athletic entities that are in town. Whether doesn't matter what part of entertainment. It could be your cheerleaders, it could be whatever. And we have a mobile unit that we call the Speed Lab. And SPEED is an acronym for Sports Performance, Education, Economic Development, where we can take this with technology that's in this van that was donated to us from Captain Transportation, local company here in town, and we can take that to communities where they can't easily get to Maryland Parkway, which is where our university is.
Wow.
So those are these are different ways we try to have an impact in the community, but also ensure that we can not only just work with our professional folks, but let's also work with our communities, doesn't matter where they're at.
How many students do you have at UNLV right now?
The beautiful thing about UNLV, we are the fastest growing university in the country, and also at a time where most universities are declining in attendance, we are increasing. So right now we're around 33,000 students.
Wow.
We are you may not notice about your university, but we are an R1 research institution, which is the gold standard for research institutions. What that means is we're the top 130 public institutions in the country. And it helps that we have the #1 hospitality school in the country, soon to be again the #1 in the world, but we're #1 domestically. And you look at all of our programs, we're in the top 20% of their respective areas, which is pretty great.
I love UNLV too. As a matter of fact, my husband and I, we were part of a class that they had there. A good friend of ours, she's more like a sister, her name is Patrice Isley, and she had a program there called The Confident Performer.
Okay.
And it was like a class, and she asked my husband and I to speak. She also had like another guy that was a director, a movie director, and another lady who designed costumes, and it was really interesting. We got to just tell these kids in UNLV like what to do and what not to do. And my husband had all the experience with that of not knowing what to do when you're young.
Yes.
And you get hired for a certain position in entertainment, and you don't know what's happening. You just sign your rights away or whatever. So that was really good. So that was my connection with UNLV. And so, yeah, that's great.
Our viewers
That's
out there,
awesome.
our viewers, I want you guys to like and share and subscribe to this program. This program, see, it's not about Joe Cortez, it's not about Shelly. It's about bringing information to individuals out there. We want you guys to know what's going on in Las Vegas. We're growing, we keep growing every year, but we want you guys to know we're trying to bring our input into the community to make sure things keep thriving, to be the best. We want to be the best at everything we do, whether it's sports, whether it's entertainers, it's singers. We want to try to bring Hollywood to Las Vegas too,
Yeah.
We're hoping that happens soon. I was talking to some individuals not too long ago, and there was an individual who were thinking about moving Hollywood to Las Vegas. You know anything about that?
Well, I know a little bit about it. I know there's talks that we're in the legislative session right now, and so it's going to be up to vote. If it makes sense for when you look at the tax credits and abatements and things of that nature, if it makes sense for us as a community. There's been a lot of investments into the sports side of the world for our state, and we've seen the economic diversification of that action. Before, always been the boxing and entertainment capital of the world, right? So now get to a point where you have the Raiders, the Knights, the Lights, the Aces, and the A's, and the Desert Dogs, and I could just keep going, the list of folks.
Female volleyball.
Exactly. So all these things, the thrills, so all these things are happening. But I think if you look at Hollywood 2.0 or Hollywood Las Vegas, will it create some great opportunities for folks? Absolutely. Is now the right time? I'm not the right person to ask that question. I think anything that we could bring here, we do a great job of really taking it to the next level.
Well, talking about the next level, AI is doing a lot of stuff with that next level, right?
Yeah, so there's a lot.
You go on your phone, your computer, all you think is AI.
Well, you can make a movie with your phone these days. But,
I created a couple of songs I sent to Shelly, to her husband, the last couple of nights. They said, where you create 10 songs from? I said, I put my mind together with AI. They help me a little bit. We put the songs out together. Pretty nice. So, things are changing. There's always room for improvement.
Of course.
10, 15 years from now, going to be new things coming up as well.
Yeah, but what I see us, Joe, as I mentioned earlier, I really do think we're an intellectual capital of sports entertainment. Right. We've done so many things that have really changed, no matter what area it is. Like I always use the Golden Knights as a perfect example, is when you look at fan engagement. At one point, the entire NHL community said, what are those guys doing in the desert playing hockey? And what's up with all the antics before the game and everything else? And now you watch the playoffs, and they're going to the second round as of last night, our Golden Knights. Every team has some sort of antic before pregame entertainment, because at the end of the day, people want to be entertained. Mm-hmm. They're there to watch a game, they're there to watch a fight, they're there to watch this, but they all want to be entertained. And there's so many layers that you can add to the entertainment experience. How they walk through the door, when they get seated, how they purchase their food or their drinks. Every part of that is a layer.
There was a fighter, Hector Macho Camacho. He's coming through the ring with all the dancing and whatnot. And Prince, I think I met from Great Britain. I referee these guys. I had watched a little show of these guys dancing around the ring. There's Metal Pies, another guy. These guys were doing their own little show. This was 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Well, that's Muhammad Ali. He started that.
Muhammad Ali started with all that talk.
Yes.
He wanted to promote himself, and maybe promoting boxing, and everybody around the whole world. There was even an 80-year-old, 90-year-old lady. You know who Muhammad Ali is? Yeah, she said the heavyweight champion. Yeah. Everybody knew Muhammad Ali.
Even if they liked him, they watched him because they loved him, or they watched him because they didn't like him.
That's
so
right.
it's one or the other. But either way, they were watching.
Yeah, that's right.
So what's on the horizon right now with Nevada?
I think there's a lot of things happening right now. I think we're at a pivotal point where there's opportunities that can help with sports tourism. I think one of the things that we work through as we start to stand up the Nevada Council Court is how do we look at sports tourism on an international level, led by Joe Campos, that gives us an opportunity to really broaden our reach out. And by having events, and where organizations like that supported by our state, but then having events like that I'm happy to be a part of, which is called CCON, which is the Sports Entertainment Innovation Conference. We have MOUs with Australia's Sports Technology Network. We also work with Syracuse Falk College of Sport, as well as other entities. And we are bringing that talent to Las Vegas via that. So I think we're just scratching the surface on how great we can be in this space. We're not quite like New York or Boston or some of these other places, but we're catching up very, very quickly.
I know Joe, you mentioned Joe Campos. I know Joe Campos for about 25 years now.
Yeah.
I met him just about when I got here to Vegas. He's very involved in the community. He's been involved in so many things that are happening in Las Vegas. We want to see, him and I have been talking lately about a lot of things we want to do together. I brought up the idea of why don't we have horse racing in Las Vegas, in Nevada? That's a big question mark, because it was back in the day when, because they say it's an uphill. I call Joe Brown, my friend Joe Brown. I said, Joe, how come we don't have horse racing here? He said, Joe, it's always been an uphill battle. We used to have dog racing back in the 50s, but they did away with that because of the heat. And now, and with the uphill battle because of the casinos. I said, but that was 25, 30 years ago. Times are changing. We got all these sports coming, football, baseball, hockey. You got all these things coming into Las Vegas. Why not the horse racing? So we were talking about that. And I talked to Lieutenant Governor the other day about it last Sunday. So there's some things happening with that. Eventually, you'll see what we're trying to do with that.
Yeah, I think diversification for us is good. I'll bring up, when we were in the pandemic, very bad thing across the world, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think what we've done for our state is we saw a silver lining for economic diversification. And that's what brought in the more sports, different entertainment. Again, those layers and giving people opportunities that I think has had a great impact on our workforce development. And at UNLV, it's put our students in a position where they can look at their careers and say, well, I don't just have to do this, I can also do this. and it's helped them really maximize their education. What you may not know about UNLV is 2/3 of our student population are first-gen and non-traditional students.
Wow.
And we're one of the most diverse campuses in the country, which is something we're very proud of, and we're going to continue to stand up on that because our students need us from that standpoint. So for me, being involved in things like the Super Bowl was fantastic. We had the opportunity to create the first fully paid internship program in Super Bowl history, and it was all for our students. So 40 students throughout that 18-month period had the opportunity to learn about the Super Bowl, how to work a large-scale event, but also not just learn, go do this job and push papers, really understand how the bid process work, how to work with our key stakeholders in our community, and really change their mindset on what a job looks like in sports and entertainment. Because there's no bigger show in our country other than the Super Bowl, right? And so it put our students in very competitive positions for job opportunities, but also opened their minds to many possibilities. And that's really, I think, is the next horizon, not only for our state, but more importantly, that's my passion, is that part of it. So.
That's one of the reasons why we were so happy when we met Joe, because we always felt this connection between sports and entertainment.
Yes.
Like I told you, we used to perform for the Eagles, and then my husband and I started doing cruise ships, and we met the president of the PBA. He was from South Carolina, and he was on a cruise with us, and we met, and we all just fell in love like we did with Joe, and we started to become really good friends. And so when his tournament came to Vegas, we were the entertainment for that as well. And I'm like, okay, sports and entertainment, they really go together.
They do go together.
And now it's like getting more and more. So this is great.
I saw this story recently. Remember the show In Living Color?
Yeah.
And so they talked about the one year at a Super Bowl, they actually stole all the fans from the Super Bowl to watch the special on A Living Color during the Super Bowl. And I remember that, but I didn't know the business side of what they did on that time frame was pretty revolutionary that Keenan Ivory Wayans did that. But the next year, the Super Bowl said, well, you're not going to take our people anymore. So guess who performed the next year for the Super Bowl? It was Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
So that's when Michael Jackson came, and that's when the Super Bowl halftime show became what it is today.
Wow.
Which is now if you do the halftime show, it takes your career to a whole nother level, especially with downloads and everything else. So it's pretty impressive.
I was talking to Joe Campos the other day and to Shelly. I wanted to bring like America Got Talent. I wanted to bring Las Vegas Got Talent to Las Vegas. I'd like to see if we could do something at UNLV with that, because you got 33 students there. I know you got your group of individuals there that are very talented, and I think that we can create something new, something that you viewers out there watching, you heard it here first. I want to bring Las Vegas Got Talent with so many youngsters out there, not only UNLV, but that's a good place to start, I think. What do you think?
No, I agree with you. I think you asked earlier, what's next on the horizon? It's those type things, which takes me back to saying this is why we're the intellectual capital of sports entertainment. It's that we have people like you that think beyond the box, and I think that's what we need to continue to have that. And you're right, we're just scratching the surface. I think that would be something that people need to see, and they really need to see just how smart our city is. They always see it as just a gaming town, but to be even that, you have to be thinking ahead, just where our airport is in relation to the Strip, how our traffic patterns are in relation to events. We've been very thoughtful, I think. And
did they think it over carefully about where they put the baseball field? Right on the Strip? I mean, right on the Strip.
Well, I think what's going to happen with that, we'll see. But in my time here, my 15 years being here, it seemed to always work out pretty good.
It worked out.
It always works out pretty good.
I mean, whoever thought out the stratosphere, of all places, where it's at now, it's one of the most popular places. If you want to go to the stratosphere, it's one of the tallest buildings here. We have a hotel and the roller coaster on top of the stratosphere, and the shoes that go down. Yeah. I wouldn't get on those roller coasters in New York, New York.
I'm not interested.
New York, the roller coaster in New York is like a Coney Island. Come on, it's crazy. But you know what? People come up with ideas. You got to use, like you said, you got to think out the box to see what you can create. You got to be creative. Always thinking about tomorrow. Not forget about yesterday. Let's think. Next year, the year after, where you going to be 10 years from now? Where you going to be 10 years from now? Well, I know where I'm going to be 10 years from now. I'm going to just be in my best chapter of my life.
No, I definitely think as it relates to our community and our city, our state, is the best is yet to come.
I think so. Yes, a lot of things are happening. A lot of good things. And my friend Joe Campos, that we have here in Las Vegas, he does so much in the community. You've been involved with him in so many things. Joe Campos, part of the committee you involved with?
Yes. So through the Nevada Council Corp, we have a agreement together to see if we can bring to light our sports and entertainment diplomacy initiative, which I think could be incredibly helpful on so many different levels. I think it'll have an impact on workforce development, sports tourism, as well as puts us in a position to really have great negotiations with our friends in other countries.
Female soccer?
All soccer. So when it relates to soccer, I actually am a founding member of Game Changers United, which is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Board for U.S. Soccer Federation.
I'm talking about
Nice.
professional, right?
Yeah, and so I have a real big interest in soccer, but more importantly, I have a big interest in women's sports as well.
Good, good.
Yeah.
That's what we would like to eat. That's why we brought you on the show, Jay, because you're young, you're creative, you're thinking out the box. That's why you're in the position that you're in right now.
Yeah.
We need people like you in Las Vegas to make this city that keeps growing and growing and growing. Where it's going to stop, who knows? But right now, we still got a lot of room to build on. I mean, you look at the desert. You go up on the airplane. You look down. Well, the strip is here, but you got so much property
Yes.
between here, California, Arizona. There's so much to be built. And I know with you guys, with your ideas and being creative, we can make a lot of things happen.
I agree.
And not only sports, but entertainment. And somebody got to come up with something new. You know, I talked about the horse racing. I like to see the horse racing here in Las Vegas. I got a friend named Chris. I met recently, and his wife Brenda. We're talking about it. That's a great idea. I own a couple. The reason why I brought it up because he owns a couple of horses, and we met at the fight the other day. And I said to myself, my friend Chris, he owns a couple of horses. Maybe he would like that idea. So I brought Joe Campos in for dinner one night last week at Lola's restaurant. That's where you guys perform, to talk about what we could do with horse racing in Las Vegas. He said, well, I don't know, something I like to look at because I do have a couple of people that have money, the investors that may want to have some interest in it. So that's why I like to see. And I spoke to the lieutenant governor the other day about it, and he said, we can talk about that up in Reno. We go up to the governor's mansion. We can talk about it. It's a good idea, Joe. I like that. So you never know.
Never know. That the possibilities are endless here, which is why people keep coming in town. Is they want to see what the possibilities are.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities here. I mean, you get people that going spaceships that take human beings up to Mars.
Yeah.
Come on, what's going on? I mean, whoever thought about that 50, 60 years ago? I mean, we had the first astronauts went up there 50 years ago, 60 years ago. But now, like the way it is now it's just like it can happen almost overnight. Everybody, you got China doing it. You got other different countries are trying to be more creative. You got to think out the box. UNLV, I'm sure your students there are doing got a lot to do with what's going to happen in the future of Nevada, but not only Nevada, but of the whole world.
I agree.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about all these things that bring sports and entertainment together. I just remembered my husband and I lived in Japan for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And we were performing over there, and the manager of the sumo wrestlers used to come into the place where we were performing, and then he started bringing the sumo wrestlers around, and most of them were Japanese, but a lot of them were from Hawaii, and they were American, and so we used to hang out and talk and everything, and we all got to be close, and they were just so cool, just like us sitting here. They would get up and do the electric slide, and the Japanese people would be like, they would be freaking out, like, oh my God, what are they doing? And I would dance with them and hang out with them, and they're like, you're not supposed to be around the sumo wrestlers. They treat them like gods, but eventually we started playing their parties as well, and now we still meet them whenever they're in the country, performing somewhere, doing the wrestling, we're always there. And it's like, see, we meet to be together.
Hawaiian folks are my Hawaiian family. I say that my wife's Hawaiian, and so she's from Kauai.
Kauai,
beautiful.
Yeah, so which is I think most beautiful place I've been to. So shout out to my family in Kauai.
You have to bring in the Lolas on Saturday night. Yeah. Oh my goodness, yeah.
I fought in Hawaii as a professional fighter. I fought there 4 times in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I fought a guy. Well, I fought 4 times. But after 4 fights, I fought the same guy 3 times. A guy named Paul Sebastian. I was a bantamweight, 118 pounder, tall, skinny little fighter. If I was hit, don't get hit. You couldn't touch me in that ring. But I fought him. The first time I beat him, They said, we're going to get Joe the second time, a rematch. Okay? I beat him again the second time. We're going to win him again. Third time, I beat him again. Then they brought a guy named Katsutomi Takano from Japan. They brought him in. They said, we got to beat Joe somehow. I fought him, I beat him too. And that was back in the days. I had a lot of fun. But I mean, it's been a lot of things, a lot of good things happening. What I want to say, Jay, is that we want to thank you so much for coming on our show today.
Yes.
And Shelly, again, thank you for your kindness and being my co-host.
Oh,
you
thank
fans
you
out
for
there,
having
again,
me.
like I said, guys, it's not about Joe Cortez. This is about you guys. We're here to help you guys, get you guys on the right track. We love you all. See you next week. God bless you.
And I'll see you at Lola's tomorrow night. And also tonight, we're going to be at Miller's Tavern on the golf course performing tonight.
Okay, take care. God bless. Thank you, Jay.
No, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.